I like to call this my sky fort. Most of the time you can see the mountains, but not today. This is where I go to get perspective and give perspective. The government was flying drones over our houses, and I just thought it'd be funny. As well as, like, they needed to know that they weren't messing with a normal person. And so, they definitely stopped flying drones over my house after I put the symbol on my roof. They should have known better than to mess with an educated person, I'm just gonna say. But, up here, you don't make it without wood heat, which is why the government's trying to make it illegal. The smoke coming off of the wood heat is actually beneficial for the atmosphere and for the forest. It gives back the CO2. There's not, or the carbon dioxide, what have you. There's not a lot of humans breathing up here, which is, one moment. It's the humans breathing that actually gives the atmosphere the nutrients that it needs. It's the exchange. The plants create oxygen, and we breathe out the carbon dioxide. Equal exchange. They give, we give, and it's a coexistence. But the government wants to stop that. Why? Because they want the planet to themselves. Their goal is not to make life better. Their goal is to do their science, do their experiments on people, and collect the science, the data off of making life more difficult. And so I have been punished for being non-compliant. I was supposed to marry myself off or die, or there was a lot of things I was supposed to do to be compliant with today's society, and I opted out, as you can see. I thought I was going to adopt a man-child, and I say it that way because that's what they are up here. They actually do not, I raised 2 kids already, and so I get to reclaim my youth and have my second childhood so long as I keep paying my bills. And not only does the government not like that, but other humans do not like that. And so I thought I was going to adopt a man-child, and they just became quickly not worth my time. Because there's a Peter Pan syndrome happening in men where they just want a woman that's going to tolerate their crap. They don't actually want to be a real man about things. They just want someone who's going to tolerate their crap. Let them treat a woman who's going to let them treat her like shit, and she still produces what they want. Food, sex, and shelter. They want the emotional support, they want the ego fed, but they don't want to give back. And so I can do much better on my own than to tolerate that crap. Well, I thought it was like the old school way of 2 people putting in and building a life together. But that is not what is happening in society. It's just people extending their childhood, essentially, needing a woman to mother them. And, if that's the case, then I'm going to be the one getting my second childhood. I didn't get to be a child when I was a child because my parents were not, they were checked out. So I had to be my own parent on a certain level. And then I had kids young, and so it was all about responsibility, which isn't, like, that's not the bad part. It's the inner freedom of getting in your imagination and appreciating. Like, I was so busy struggling that I did not have the ability to appreciate my surroundings and the things that I had and the life that I had. And so I was like, when I looked back, I just remember struggling. I don't remember even getting the time to appreciate, which turns out that's part of the scam that they have on society. You're so busy struggling that you don't have the ability to appreciate things that you normally otherwise would. And so by being defiant and appreciating my atmosphere, like, I wasn't supposed to appreciate the ghetto, evidently, but I do appreciate it here. I went out in the neighborhood trying to get to know people. I wanted to have a beautiful story to tell people, but I can share just the beautiful parts, but that leaves out the real story. And so that's what they're doing online. I noticed is they're only sharing the beautiful parts and leaving out the true story of things, especially for the spiritual awakening journey. There's a whole lot of details. By them faking it and trying to show you the most beautiful part of their journey, they leave out a whole lot of pertinent details that people are going to need. And so I decided to be authentic in my share when I share my story, because other people are going to need that. They're going to need the real version, not the trumped up fake pretend love and light version, because it's not all love and light, especially when you live in a form of a ghetto with a lot of criminals. And what people, like, I'm not trying to take digs, but what people don't realize is there's been generations of institutionalization happening in society, and it's been over time, so people don't even see it. And I would not have seen it if I did not come up here to grow perspective on these things. And so it's by taking the time to understand others that I started to understand myself, and in understanding myself, I learned to understand others. It's a mutual give and take. Well, on my part, it's a give and take, but honestly, I think taking the time to understand others did make a difference in their lives that wouldn't otherwise have been made. And taking the time to understand people absolutely changes their life. Instead of judging them, understanding them brings a different energy. So, yeah, welcome to the Sky Fort, where I can see everything. So this is how I also like spending time in the Sky Fort. I got to see what the government was doing too. And in doing my videos, the government got to see what other people were doing, evidently. It was not intentional on my part, but shit happens when you do shitty things. Other people. And so this is the place where I learned a lot. When I moved here, I was a country girl. I knew how to make it in the country, but at the same time, I'd been citified. And if you live in town and have not had to struggle for your existence, then you absolutely do not understand, even living in town, you have access to helps that are not up here for these people. And, I assumed that that they had the same helps as in the valley down below, but they do not. they have the government working against them and have had the government working against them since at least the 90s. I've seen the plan for this area. It's called the Canyon Plan, and they wanted to overtake this area then and boot the locals out. The rich people have all sorts of plans. They want to make this a ski resort. And so they do not care what happens to the locals. And so they have also taught the locals not to care about what happens to each other. But I went out on a venture to try to change that. Not by force, but just by being an energy of change. We'll find out how that went. It takes time for these things to happen. But when they're talking about spiritually infecting people, I thought, that actually sounds like fun. And so I decided to go do that. I went to bars and talked about God and religious, spiritual beliefs, mostly spiritual beliefs. But it was fascinating to go to the bar to talk about God and spirituality, because they were more than happy to be a part of that conversation. Whereas when you talk to so-called Christians, they're so busy judging people that they're not open-minded to the reality of things. People up here are faced with realities all the time. And I am like the whole when in Rome, the Romans absolutely would have killed me on sight, because I bring my own energy, I do my own thing. And at least the locals here, they don't just allow it, they encourage it on a certain level. They encouraged me to be my weird self, and so I did, and I made them comfortable at being their weird selves until they crossed boundaries with me. And then I absolutely made a scene, because none of them have been taught any etiquette. And they've been allowed to be wild mountain people without etiquette. And so the ratio, like, women have been tolerant up here of different things, because they need a man for firewood, they need a man for this, they feel safer with a man around. And the men up here have not had to work for it. They've not had to provide for women like women have had to provide for their children. So the men up here actually have no experience at doing what it takes for the family, because they have women who do what it takes. And so I absolutely see what's happening in society. There's a whole, like, my dad was one of them. My dad's like, he barely provided firewood. He just didn't know what it took, because his mother did a lot for the family, and so his father did not have to do that much. His father held the job, brought in the money, but my dad's mom absolutely had to work several jobs. The youngest kid didn't even know which one was his mom. They had 9 kids. And so the youngest didn't actually know which female in the family was his mom, because everybody, like all the older sisters, mothered him and whatnot. So there was a lot of people putting in. There was a lot of people that lived in the household. And so when the men got out on their own, especially the ones that came up here to be good old mountain boys, they didn't know what it took. They didn't know about the firewood. They didn't know about, like, winters in Iowa are difficult, but not near the same as winters here. So it's a different way of life wherever you live. it doesn't matter what state, it's about your local community. And so when I moved here, I was too sick to really care. I was too sick to go out. And so once I got physically well again, I decided to go out and get to know my local community. I wanted to give back in a way. And the only way to know how to give back is to go out and see what the community needs. This community needs a lot of things because it has been neglected by the government. Not only that, they institutionalized them mentally. And so people here actually do not have the decision-making skills that they would need to function in the world the same as other people do. Not that they couldn't figure it out, but at this point in life, who wants to? Not to mention we have a whole different set of freedoms up here that other people don't know about, as well as there's different rules to the game up here. And so if you don't know the rules to the game, you could end up frozen to death or dead in some way, whether it's emotionally dead, mentally dead, or physically dead. So you got to know your shit. And so I still plan to give back to my community in some way. It just might not be the way I wanted to. Because what I saw, what I was doing was I was hiring people to come and help me because it shared the wealth. And by doing things the way I did them, it basically co-enabled people instead of making them work for it. Because what was happening was they were not doing the job, and I would pay them anyways instead of being strict with them. And so my kids advised me, they actually complained. They're like, you treat other people better than you treated us, and you had higher expectations on us than you do on other people, and it's just not fair, Mom. And I was like, you're absolutely right. And so I decided maybe teaching people lessons was in order. And so I gave people a 3 strikes you're out system. And when they would continually cross boundaries, take advantage, or not do the job that they were getting paid to do, they got cut off. It wasn't because they wanted to, it was because they had no choice. If the lesson was to sink in, obviously I couldn't discipline them. And it's not about disciplining. In order to train a dog, a horse, any kind of animal, you have to have a meeting of the minds, and that's without conversation, because words are cheap. This is America. Words are cheap. And so I just had to take a different approach and hope everything worked. We'll find out. Again, it takes time. But people have been allowed to do whatever they want, live without structure, live without boundaries. They've been allowed to cross boundaries freely up here. And by me holding the line and standing up to the neighborhood bullies, that hopefully changes things for other people in the area, not just myself. People were not quick to bully me until I let them know that I was not batting for the same team. I was on team me. And those that are used to having flying monkeys helping them bully other people in the neighborhood did not like that. That's not a me problem. So if people don't understand energy alchemy, this absolutely changes the energy that floats over your home, the energy that the neighborhood carries. It changes this. People that have had to stand up to neighborhood bullies absolutely know. And this is why there's Karens out in the world. I do feel bad for Karen on a certain level. She is just tired of seeing people get away with shit. So she wants to be the hall monitor, making sure things, making sure people like learn a lesson. But Karen, there's a new way to do this. It's called letting the air out of the tires. Legitimately, I've had to school myself on my own energy because the old version of me, if you double-crossed me, I'd absolutely dismantled your car like a criminal and sold it back to you by the bolt. Because that absolutely teaches a person a lesson. But it also teaches grudges, and it then you start having turnabout as fair play and all sorts of things. And so I learned to give a different kind of uppercut. And the government absolutely hates me for doing this because it changes the mentality, breaks the institutionalization. And then people start realizing, they're like, hey, I'm a person too. I'm like, I know. Aren't we all? Aren't we all? So I had people saying terrible things to me. Terrible things. They knew nothing. Yet they felt free in saying terrible things to me and crossing personal boundaries with me. But when I did the same back to them, it became a different story. All of a sudden, they were wronged. Never mind that they just got done doing that to me. And so I pointed that out. Oh, what? You can do whatever you want, say whatever you want to me, but I'm not allowed to do that back to you, huh? How's that right? I'm not playing by those rules. Equal exchange. If you're going to say terrible things to me, I'm absolutely going to say terrible things back. I'm not sure what they were expecting. This is where the Christians have, like, given this spin. You think you reached a nice girl just because they have a nice face. Your misperceptions are not a me problem. But what is a me problem is zero tolerance. They teach tolerance in society when tolerance is actually not the same as temperance. Temperance is the ability to control your temper, whether your temper needs to have a flare-up or calm down. But having a calm temper in spite of someone trying to stab you in the back, in spite of someone crossing boundaries and treating you terribly, that's wrong. That is teaching you to take abuse, which that makes absolute sense as to why the government would do that to people, using religion to teach you to tolerate abuse. Oh, well, you got the wrong girl here. That's absolutely not what I'm doing. I am not tolerating things, and so people need to get that straight up. Nice face. There's many gods and I love them all, but I will not put gods above myself anymore. That was never supposed to happen. We are supposed to take care of ourselves, and we are not supposed to self-sacrifice. And so by expecting me to do that, false expectations. Someone's been teaching society false expectations. That's not a me problem, and it will not be a me problem. So if you got someone saying terrible things to you, doing terrible things to you, it's not about doing that back to them. It's about being the mirror. Reflect themselves back. I hated the fact that I could not act like myself for the longest time because I was so busy having to mirror things back to people, transmute that energy, basically be the mirror and show them what they look like. And they didn't like that reflection. They didn't like the view. Neither did I. And so we're taking time apart. We'll find out if they got the message or not. We'll find out if they learned the lesson or not. I bring in my own energy, and I suggest they tidy up on their own energy as well. Because I'm tempered. I'm not tolerant. And I have every right to be me. Bottom line. I'd like to say, they can be themselves, but it's like telling a mass murderer, like, oh, it's okay, Jeffrey Dahmer, you can be you. No, you can't. Ted Kaczynski, you can't be you either. Changes have to be made. Bullying is not acceptable. I don't care if you're a government or a citizen. I'm not accepting it from anybody. And so, hence this symbol on my roof. Fuck with me. I dare you to. Because odds are I'm going to have fun being the bad guy. I spent all of my life trying to be good. In spite of the fact that people were trying to kill me, people were trying to be terrible to me, and using the whole Christianity kindness thing, throwing that in my face. Well, I'm not a Christian. I'm spiritual. Church of Spiritual Humanism is completely different. I still get to have my beliefs, but it's no longer governed by unrealistic expectations. And I'm going to remind people, I do believe in Jesus, and Jesus died so that, like, God can forgive you and I can go on being me. God can tolerate your crap. I can go on being me. If people want to slap that expectations on everybody, like, not all of us, like, I started off, well, no, I didn't even start off as Christian. I started off thinking I was related to Superman. I might be. And then it was around the age of 6 that my mom, well, she's a Capricorn. It makes sense as to why she would get all spiritual and religious, because Capricorns are actually on their way to hell of some sort. On a soul level, they are. And so, but the Bible and religion, that is ground zero for true spirituality. True spirituality is where the Native Americans exist, or existed. They don't get to exist there much the same. There is a creator God. There is other gods as well. And I believe they all deserve their recognition. Just like each person deserves their recognition. And so it's not for us to say, it's just for us to recognize. Simply put. And so, I hope this will help talks people. The light is going away. The sun wasn't that great to begin with. But just understand, like, your beliefs are your beliefs. Other people are not obligated to carry them. I'm not obligated to have the same beliefs as other people, and other people are not obligated to have the same beliefs as me. Plain and simple. This is why we have our own yards, we have our own houses, so that we have a space to be us, a space for our own beliefs, a space for our own existence, and we are not obligated to tolerate things from other people in that space. And it would be wise for people to recognize this. But this is the beginning of creating a whole new society on the planet, especially in America and definitely in this area. Hopefully there's a turning around of things. I do see people being more productive, doing better in their lives. It's not a measurement of them being like the rest of society. It's a measurement of, are they better than they were? Did I leave things better than I found them, or did I make things worse? I was not trying to make things worse. But at the same time, sometimes you have to make a mess in order to clean one up. And this area has been lawless for a long time. It's the draw of the area is the lawlessness. This is why people like to move here, is because we follow our own set of rules up here. It's not that I'm trying to govern people, but at the same time, individuals were getting hurt. People were dying, and the justice system wasn't doing anything. So I did. And sometimes that's what it takes. Other women needed to feel safe again up here. Children, they needed to feel safe again up here. There's been children human trafficked. There's been a lot of child abuse up here. There's been a lot of dysfunction that's been allowed to go on. And it's not that I'm telling them what to do, but I am going to tell them what not to do. Because that's not been addressed up here the same. And so I do kind of act like a hall monitor sometimes, but it's not what I want to do. It's not what I'm trying to do. Once the flow is going the right way, I won't have to. It'll take care of itself. But this is ways that we can actually help our community around us by changing the energy, by changing the flow of things, by setting boundaries, not restrictions, but setting boundaries. People were doing a lot of what they didn't want to do, and now they're able to do what they do want to do, because there's no neighborhood bully deciding that for them. So again, I hope this video helps people. If anything, it helps you understand me better. But in understanding me better, maybe you understand you better. Have a good evening.